Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out and joining us on our live podcast. Tonight, we are doing an insider's look at Uponor, alternative piping solutions, with factory guest Andrew Cahill. My name is Rob Clemens. I'm in Contractor Services Group at Wales Derby. Joining us in the background are some more of the fellas over in our Contractor Services Group. We have Jimmy Fry, Jim DePalma, Anthony Tossi, John Resso, and Rick Coster. They will be in the background to answer any kind of questions that you may have. And if a question pops up that we feel we should bring up to the guest, we will absolutely do so. So as I said, my name is Rob Clemens. I have about 20 years of experience in the HVAC department, not so much on the plumbing side. So it's been taking me a couple of years here to kind of get up to, up to standard, so to speak, as far as the plumbing aspect of the business is concerned. But I do have vast experience out in the field, and I do bring that to all of our trainings, our podcasts, and my general knowledge base goes right out to our contract base, and it helps to, kind of speak the language of the contractor. So as I said earlier, I have Mr. Andrew Cahill from Uponor. I'm going to introduce him now. Andrew, you want to say a couple things about your background?
Yeah, for sure. Well, good evening, Rob. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me as a guest here this evening. I am actually entering my 5th year at Uponor. Recently attained the Senior Commercial Sales Manager title. Prior to that, I was a manufacturer's rep in the Baltimore, D.C. market, where we carried the Uponor line. I spent 6 years there, so 10 plus years involved with Uponor as an organization, and quite a bit of background in the industry as well.
Excellent. So getting started, how did Uponor come to be, and how did the idea for PEX piping come about?
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting question, very interesting story. Thomas Engel invented the cross-linking of polyethylene in 1965. His Engel method PEX piping was first manufactured in 1972 by a company called Wiersbo, a name that may sound familiar to a lot of you. In 1990, Wiersbo first opened a factory in Apple Valley, Minnesota, and the cold expansion system was introduced 4 years later. Between 1997 and 2006, as a result of a couple of mergers, Uponor consolidated all of its business under one brand. You actually still see the name Wiersbo, however, branded on our heating PEX products today.
Okay. How did the idea for the polyethylene tubing come to fruition? How did that whole process start?
So I don't know why Thomas thought of the idea of cross-linking polyethylene. I do know that how it became tubing was actually a product of his vicinity overseas. He was asked if he could make a pipe of the material to provide additional heat to a local chicken farm in order to have the chickens produce more eggs. So that was really the first kind of foray into our pipe being utilized in a radiant application.
So you didn't happen to know what size piping he used back then, did you?
I don't. A little before my time. 65 and 72 predate me by probably about 20 years. But, I'm happy to be a part of the organization and the success we've had today. So,
excellent, excellent. So there are a few other PEX manufacturers out there. What separates Uponor from the competition?
Sure. So the first and most important thing to know is there's 3 types of PEX available to the market. They're identified currently by the letters A, B, and C. The differences are significant, and they're created in the way in which they are manufactured. So PEX A is extruded under high heat and pressure, yielding an 80% cross-linking. This creates a uniform cross-linking of the tubing wall, enabling both heat kink repairability and cold expansion functionality. It also creates the most flexible PEX tubing available to the market. These features you won't find in B and C type products. Second to that, Uponor also boasts the largest PEX diameter available at 3 inches and the most comprehensive fitting selection, and has over 17 billion feet of tubing installed globally.
Okay. the heat kink repair is really one of my favorite selling points as far as the Uponor product is concerned, because I know a lot of, personally, contractors out there, we kind of beat some materials up either on the way to the job or, just prior to the installation process. So having the ability to repair a kink with a heat gun, really sets sets the bar for the PEX industry.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the heat kink buys you a little. It's important to note that the tubing is not invincible. Unfortunately, we don't have any magic trick available for a hole from a drywall screw or a nail or something of that effect. But a minor kink when flexing the pipe, things of that nature, the heat gun is a nice little trick to have.
Absolutely. Now, another question I have for you is more based on the fittings. What's really the difference between your fitting as opposed to other products?
So typically, when you hear the word PEX, because there's so many manufacturers out there, a lot of people's mindset goes to a traditional PEX flexible piece of tubing, an insert fitting, and then a crimp or a clamp ring over the outside, compressing that fitting to hold it in place. Uponor, as I mentioned earlier, as a type A PEX, has thermal elastic memory, so it's always seeking its inner and outer diameter. The tool that we utilize from Milwaukee expands the pipe out. You place the fitting inside, and then the pipe naturally comes back down around the outside of the fitting. So essentially what's happening is the fitting is larger than the pipe. Therefore, the pipe is going to contract back down around that fitting tighter and tighter, meaning that the day you make that connection is actually the weakest it's ever going to be, only getting stronger every day thereafter.
Wow, awesome. That's impressive. So the HVAC and plumbing and heating industries are typically reluctant to adapt to change. So what are some of the difficulties that had to be overcome when the industry first started introducing a flexible apex piping?
Sure. I think change tends to be difficult regardless of the arena you're talking about. Consider our daily routines around things like where we get our coffee in the morning. Certainly the climate, currently out in the country and everything that we're dealing with around the pandemic and things of that nature. Change is difficult. It's not easy to, get over that hurdle a lot of times. However, with over 10 years of experience at Uponor, I've found that the largest obstacle in this particular arena is misconception or lack of information around the Uponor product and services. From confusion over the differences between polyethylene and polybutylene, which was a product that was around in the 90s that had some chlorine tolerance problems, particularly around the fittings themselves, to the idea that plastics are diminishing the trade, making things too convenient and too easy, to the idea that they're not as durable or suitable for commercial applications. All of which we have sufficient background information and a track record to disprove, but the outside looking in type of observation of Uponor may be a little different than that. So basically, to overcome it, we've had to enhance our level of education to ensure a thorough understanding of the advantages to utilizing Uponor PEX in commercial applications.
Me personally, I was always a fan of having a easier process as far as the install was concerned. So I was always willing to adapt to change. But very well said. Very good points. At Wells Darby, we understand the value of the product education as good as anyone. In fact, many of our business relationships derive directly from our training. So with that being said, what kind of training do you offer, and do you offer factory visits for reps and contractors?
Sure. Great question. We can conduct trainings both locally and through our factory training team. Under normal circumstances, factory trainings were a big highlight for us, for reps and customers alike. They found them to be highly valuable and very well received. Unfortunately, with the recent pandemic, we've had to put a temporary hold on these. Obviously, restrictions on travel, people's fears around kind of leaving states and getting on airplanes and things of that nature kind of have put a hold on our pattern with these. But We've migrated to online platforms a lot and site trainings with social distancing in mind, kind of adhering to the contractor's comfort level. So thankfully, we've been able to pretty much move freely with our vehicles. Job sites typically aren't too overcrowded. We can usually carve out a space somewhere and maintain proper distance. However, a lot of guys have still chosen to go with the online platform just as an added safety precaution. Platforms like the one we're on now, Teams, there's a wealth of them available. So any type of training, whether it's installation training or a very initial introduction to Uponor PEX-A, we can accommodate anything in that swath.
Excellent. So to that same point, what are some of the things that aided in accepting that change, from copper and steel pipe over to PEX?
Sure. I think you hit the nail on the head a moment ago when you said as a contractor in your previous life, you were always looking for an advantage in the marketplace, something that was easier, something that carried a little less liability with it. So, Uponor PEX-A affords the contractor improved health and safety by eliminating glues, solvents, and torches from project sites. So no fireworks, no fire watch, no glue dry times on CPVC, for instance. It has an inherent weight advantage, which prohibits a lot of potential injury when you think about working with 2.5, 3-inch copper or iron pipe. And considering recent adjustments from the pandemic, it actually helps promote a little bit of social distancing. A lot of times, two-man jobs, as far as a lift, can turn into a singular individual working by himself in a unit, installing that 1/2 through 1 inch or 1.5 inch product. Without having to have a secondary team there. So there's also an inability to dry fit a connection. As I mentioned, we take advantage of the thermal memory of the pipe by opening it. Therefore, if you don't open the pipe, the fitting simply won't go in. So you don't have any situations where you're assembling a unit ahead of time, going back and gluing it. You don't have any instances where you're putting a crimp or a clamp ring in the instance of a PEX B or C and forgetting to go back and crimp or clamp that after the fact. You simply can't make the connection without opening the tubing first. So it's a 100% dry fit prohibitive system. It also carries with a 25-year limited warranty. That warranty is transferable between ownership. It covers the pipe and the fittings, and if deemed a manufacturing defect, actually covers the labor to go back and make the repair and any real property damage to the facility. So drywall, carpets, things of that nature are inclusive in that. The speed of the connection aids in installation productivity. Pair that with a cost staple product. You think about copper and the constant flux that the price is in. You go in one day and then it's gone up by the time you've reached the end of your project significantly. We have a full year on our pricing structure before we have any type of adjustment. So you have a full calendar year. You don't have that day-to-day change. All that generally increases the profitability of a project for our contractor partners.
Wow, that's a pretty big list of advantages there. I think everybody in the industry can get behind that. With all of that being said, do you still see contractors that are reluctant to make the change from copper? And if so, why do you think that, that is?
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier around change. Change is difficult. It's never the right time. There's so many things on our plate. We have a crew of guys that's used to doing things a certain way. There's a little bit of fear of the unknown. I think what Uponor offers is beyond just pipe and fittings. We have a full field sales team. I'm responsible for a number of guys from Maine to Virginia that are part of my commercial team. We have residential guys and a director that oversees kind of the East region. In addition, we have our rep partners. We're able to help kind of overcome some of those obstacles and the growing pains that go into adopting a new system. It's not here's the pipe, here's the fittings, good luck. We have a construction services team out in Lakeville, Minnesota, that'll do drawings, design development drawings for you, helping with layouts and things of that nature. all things designed to kind of ease that change. But again, not having the knowledge that Uponor has all these products and services available to the marketplace, it can be a little bit, there can be a fear factor there too. I'm not familiar with this. I'm not, ready to make this change. But I'd encourage the folks that are still on that fence to really take a strong look at this, especially going forward, because I think it's an opportunity for contractors to take advantage of some significant, benefits to utilizing an alternative product.
Yeah, I agree with that, and especially with the people that are going to be in the New York, New Jersey footprint here, you have many different kinds of training at your disposal when it comes to the product. It's you have Wales Darby, my entire contractor services group, our sales team, and then on your end you have your guys over at Uponor that can facilitate the same needs. So. Very, very good. All right. So next, now that Uponor has become a world leader in PEX piping, how do you keep your finger on the pulse, so to speak, of the industry and keep things moving in a positive direction?
Sure. And there's an inherent challenge there. I mentioned changed earlier. There is an opportunity to start to work in a vacuum. And that's the last thing you want. So in addition to our field sales team, we have local representation like yourselves at Wales Darby, and we have that in every market in North America. Between the two, Uponor ensures a regular presence at our customers' offices and the ability to kind of have that support level. Additionally, myself and my team regularly, I'm sure your team as well, attends various trade organizations such as MCA, ASPE, ASHRAE. All of those can definitely help keep us up to speed on code changes and all the goings on within the industry. Even our more senior level sales managers often maintain some account responsibility, myself included. So as a manager, I am coaching my team, but I like to keep myself kind of in the fire, so to speak, and in touch with the community and things of that nature, because like I said, it's far too easy to fall into that vacuum perception and be out of touch with what's going on as far as the current events. And that helps us kind of take action based on specific market needs as opposed to a generalized idea.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And you always have our help out there as well. It's another facet that you guys have. So, that local representation that you have, that's what we pride ourselves on here at Wales Darby. We have a great relationship with Uponor's field sales team. How do those relationships help in driving forward the product?
Oh, absolutely. I think we have a very strong partnership with all of our representatives. As field sales members, we cover very wide swaths of territory. I just mentioned I'm, Maine to Virginia. So having rep partnerships enables a closer level of support for our customers, our distribution partners, our contractors, even our engineering community around specifications. Wales Darby, just like Chesapeake Systems, the rep I used to work for, carries a breadth of other products as well. They pair well with our product, boilers on the radiant side, pumps, things of that nature. So I think those rep partnerships definitely aid in support of not only our product, but I think it also helps our rep partners offer a full system of solutions for a given project or application and be able to fully support that locally.
Absolutely. So I want to take a second here to answer a question that we have out from the audience. They want to know about the photo that we are looking at on the screen, left-hand side photo.
Sure. That's our Apple Valley headquarters in Minnesota. So majority of our manufacturing still occurs within that facility. As recent as a year and a half ago, we bought a second facility in Hutchinson, Minnesota. It's about between an hour and two west of our facility there in Apple Valley to expand our manufacturing capacity. You may also note a building kind of set in the back there. That is the annex to the original headquarters there. So sort of a testament to our growth over the course of the past decade, as far as how much our expansion, our manufacturing has had to expand to meet the need of the industry and demand of the industry. But beautiful facility. If we ever return to some semblance of normal, which, fingers crossed, we hope to start those factory trainings back up, all of which encompass a full facility tour, where you get to see the manufacturing floor, you get to see, some of the shipping that comes out of the annex. In addition to the facilities that I just listed, we also have a distribution facility in Lakeville, Minnesota, that also houses our construction services group. So quite a few facilities, quite a few goings on in the multiple facilities, but that's where our leadership sits, is in that building you can see in the image there.
So another question from the audience: how much radiant does this building have?
Don't know the answer to that question. Again, the organization existed a long time before I came on board. My first year being, I think, 2011 is when I started with the rep firm. 2015 is when I started with Uponor directly. So I'm sorry to say I don't have the answer to that question. I do know we do have quite a bit of the piping overhead in the annex facility. And we have quite a bit of piping in the new Hutchinson facility, which needed to be kind of renovated. But I don't know how they got this building. So obviously, if they bought into it and it wasn't built from kind of ground up, radiant can be challenging in a space like that to retro, just because it's such a large facility.
Here's another one. So. Does the parking lot have a Snowmelt system?
No, it does not. No, it does. That I can confidently state. I've been up there many, many times in January when we always have our, beginning of the year sales meetings, which is just a wonderful time. By the way, anyone that's on the call here that is looking forward to maybe getting out and taking a factory tour and kind of going through all of that, I'd encourage you to avoid the months of October through probably around end of March, maybe early April. I definitely target late spring, summer, and early fall for that trip. But no, plows and shovels still exist for that parking lot. But I live in Baltimore. I work remote, so my apologies for not being overly familiar with the facility, but I see it maybe twice a year. I'm an East Coast boy, born and bred, so. This lovely studio you see behind me is kind of where I'm been officing from for some time.
All right. So getting back to it, most recently with regards to COVID-19, what was Uponor's kind of initial response, to the epidemic?
Yeah, it was challenging. Of course, this whole thing is relatively unprecedented, right? At least for people in within this generation of how to handle something like this. Priority one from our senior management committee was the health and safety of our employees. So the first step was to understand CDC, state and local guidelines, and then create an action plan. Pretty quickly, we were kind of under the same travel restrictions as most folks, trying to find new ways to interact. The platforms we discussed earlier, the one we're on now, different avenues to reach our customers. Thankfully, phone and email has become so prevalent in today that not much changed with regard to that, but we certainly weren't on airplanes anymore. We're actually still prohibited from public transportation. So, it was definitely a change for us, but I was happy that the organization put the health and safety of its employees and their families ahead of everything else.
Right. Yeah, and I believe that the guidelines were very important. Since like you said, it was an unprecedented event. Nobody could have prevented or prepared for this kind of a situation. So having those guidelines, whether you liked them or not, were they kind of help us promote that organization. We use many platforms as well, just like you have. Microsoft Teams was kind of the whole basis around our group, and we had daily meetings as well through Teams. How did you use those platforms to keep moving forward?
Sure. So we did everything from our typical quote unquote state of the union meetings with our customers, whether they're engineers or contractors, just to kind of get a sense of where the business is, the strategic direction of their organization, what they hope to achieve in the coming year. Typically, we do those in January just to kind of get us in line as a partner with our contractor and engineer partners. However, we had to revisit those quote unquote state of the union meetings when everything kind of took a left turn in early 2020. So we utilized the platforms to reconnect kind of on a face-to-face basis with management of those organizations as quickly as we could, just to figure out how we could help better. With the East having 4 of the top 5 cities affected, obviously it was imperative that we got out ahead of that as best we could. Beyond those regular kind of routine cadence meetings with our customers, we did a number of trainings, educational seminars, internal meetings. Certainly, I'm sure you guys did as well at Wales Darby, but certainly between ourselves and our directors and our leaders at Uponor, it was helpful to kind of get that feel of being around a conference table, although it was, via a webcam.
Yeah, we had our, like I mentioned earlier, we had our meetings every morning, 8 a.m., just to kind of engage everybody. They even put forth goals for us, certain types of things that our industry partners were looking for, and just remaining engaged in the business as well. And furthermore, we expanded our training department to go into this webinar-based training. And I can't speak enough about all the groups here at Wales Darby that helped us put that all together and be able to provide this training to our contractors. So as with prior economic downturns, quick thinking and action is a key to getting the business through to a more prosperous time. What were some of the things that surprised or impressed you with the response of Uponor and the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I was impressed with the commitment to health and safety and the transparency of our senior management committee at Uponor. Very early on, they immediately instituted a weekly call to keep us up to speed on all actions being taken to address, the changing climate at the time. On the industry side, I was very pleased to see the amount of educational seminars being offered. So many organizations and the level of engagement from far and wide in those seminars was great. I think it was a good time to kind of hit the pause button a little bit, refine our skill set a little bit, maybe come back and revisit what we know and what we don't know. And increase, industry knowledge and just, self-improvement. So I think I was impressed with the amount of information that was made available relatively quickly.
All right. Yeah, that was impressive to us as well. In the opening weeks, we had thousands sign into our various product trainings. How do you feel that was perceived by the audience and even the trainers alike?
Yeah, I think anytime you have an opportunity to refine your skill set and the knowledge level of the industry as a whole, it's a positive thing. We can only be better for that level of education. Our trainings, both internal and external, were very well attended and received a lot of great feedback. We even had a number of contractors and engineers reach out to us after sort of general sessions that we put on, similar to this one, to request a individualized session for their particular firm or organization. So, and we were kind of rapid fire with those for a long while. I think as business starts to tick, like we're starting to see now. We were talking earlier, Rob, and the last couple of weeks have started to see a slight uptick in the business. I think we kind of returned to that normalcy a little bit, orders going out, projects, things of that nature. But it was very positive to see people making the best use of time over those couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was rewarding on our behalf. When we started to see the responses coming in from the contractors out there that were thanking us for webinars and even, calling us up and asking for custom, trainings. There was guys that were contacting us for trainings on products that I never thought I would have to train on, but they saw the value in the amount of time that we had to actually give that education out and get more familiar with products. So it really was an eye-opening experience, definitely.
Yep.
So I got a couple of questions here from the audience. I'm gonna kind of call those out here. Number one is more of a personal question. Do you have any particular favorite Uponor product or application?
So plumbing is really where I find myself most frequently. I left this out of my introduction, but I actually started with Joe Sam Drain Company very early on, 2003, while I was still going through and getting my engineering degree. Started in the warehouse, moving drains, but as with anything, maybe it was when I played with Legos as a kid. I like to figure out how things work, put things together. So very quickly started figuring out how cleanouts worked, what roof drains were, closet carriers, things of that nature. So that really kind of launched me more into the plumbing side. When I came on board with the manufacturer's rep, they were very heavily hydronic. So it was boilers, pumps, and things of that nature. I was asked to kind of lead the charge, so to speak, on the plumbing side of things with Joe Sam as the main product. Uponor came on shortly thereafter, so it was just a natural progression for me to kind of gravitate towards plumbing. I think a major benefit to me working as a manufacturer's rep for those years is cross-training, though. Although I was primarily focused on plumbing, I got a lot of knowledge out of the hydronic guys at that facility and was able to start figuring out boilers, pumps, and things of that nature as well. So great bit of experience there. But as it stands with Uponor today, I think my favorite is still plumbing, just because it's an application I'm the most familiar with, most comfortable with, and really anything commercial. We recently did a great job with Wales Derby. For those on the line that may be familiar with it, 99 Hudson, which is now the tallest building in New Jersey, right across from Manhattan there, is actually Uponor product, 2-inch and down. We did unit risers 10 stories at a time from ground zero all to floor 79. So great project to be a part of, great views when I got the opportunity to get up on the roof there. So
All right. This is an Anthony Tossi question.
all right.
How can we get some Uponor sweatshirts? And then the next was large.
I have to say that this is definitely a frequent question, although now that I haven't been traveling, I haven't been hearing it as much, but I could definitely look into that for you, Mr. Tossi. I will ask for some type of exchange rate, though. I mean, I need some kind of garb from Wales Derby, or I need a project closed or something like that. There's a little bit of give and take here.
There you go, Toss. All right, let's see what else we got here. Any COVID Uponor masks available?
So yeah, this is something we actually looked into initially, but with the challenges around shipping and things of that nature, contact, even our departments, anything incoming to Uponor is on a 48-hour hold. So I guess ultimately what we decided, because when we pursued the idea of Uponor face masks, it was kind of at the height of everything. So they just thought the idea of bringing them into corporate and then redistributing them, with multiple points of contact along the way was not the wisest decision.
Right.
We may revisit that going forward. Obviously, the mask has become, at least for the foreseeable future, part of everyone's everyday kind of wear. So that might be something that happens in the near future, but that's more the marketing department's end of things, more so for myself.
Yeah, and I do think we're going to have to be wearing masks for a while. I know they're talking about we could get hit with a second wave of this come like September, October.
Sure.
But if you do, that's something I'm definitely interested in. If I go to an Uponor job site, throw on an Uponor mask, make it look official, I'm good with that.
All right, well, noted, and I'll definitely share everyone's thoughts with the marketing team and see what they come back with.
Absolutely. All right, so we got another question here. Where do you think the growth for Uponor will come, I guess, in the future? You think that's going to be more on the residential or on the commercial side?
So initially, our thoughts were definitely around commercial. It's where we've seen the most growth over the course of the last several years. It's definitely a market in which we haven't gotten as much saturation, or we haven't gotten to the point of saturation we would like to be. Part of that comes back to change that we talked about earlier, a little hesitance to maybe make the switch over to a new product. Part of it is code. There are still some markets in the US that are restrictive of plastics in a number of applications. Of course, the Plastic Pipes Institute is doing quite a bit to try and change that. We've definitely seen some movement in the Philadelphia market, and most recently in the Boston area market. So we'll have to see kind of how that progresses. That being said, we've seen a little bit of an uptick in the residential segment. I think obviously that's a victim of circumstance, so to speak, right? You have densely populated urban areas with two things occurring right now: a pandemic and unrest. And I think some folks are looking to get out of those environments and kind of move into that suburban area. So have some friends in the real estate business. They said that that seems to be trending in the right direction, with people kind of looking to maybe exit the more densely populated areas. So I think we'll start to see residential climb as well. But my personal focus as the commercial sales manager still on commercial. So that's obviously something I'm rooting for in terms of growth and striving to have happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So here at Wales Derby, we had a lot of help, especially, coming from the contractor services group. We had a lot of help with the other departments here at Wales Derby, from marketing to IT. IT got us involved a lot in, getting the programs and, teaching us how to use them. And then the marketing team has really helped us push our trainings and stuff like that. So with that being said, how have other internal groups within Uponor helped you in completing your job tasks?
Sure. I think marketing is probably our most closely tied strategic partner. You've heard me mention them a number of times already. They're responsible for the content, both digital and tangible, that we can offer to the field. So pamphlets, brochures, manuals, things of that nature are all running through that department. And that department has to be aligned with us so that they're creating content that is related to what's going on in the field. So we have pretty good dialogue constantly occurring between those teams. The training team was definitely heavily leaned upon during that March to kind of late May timeframe to put together content for those online trainings, create internal trainings for us to sharpen our skill set, create external trainings for the reps to sharpen their skill set. The production teams stayed on point, which testament to them for doing so. Material was readily available to the market at all times. So that was great. Of course, we are in the domestic water business, so we were deemed as an essential business at that time. Manufacturing was able to continue and provide everything that was needed to our customers when they needed it. And construction services, a group that I mentioned is located in Lakeville, Minnesota, that does our estimates and our design work, and now are even starting to get into Revit and three-dimensional BIM modeling, things of that nature. They obviously, kept going as well. A lot of their work could be done remotely, so they were able to kind of keep up with things.
Okay. So to follow that up, has any of this changed since the arrival of COVID-19? Have any of these groups had to kind of change their jobs, or is everything still kind of even keel? Everybody's kind of doing the same basic stuff.
I think, we had to adapt the same way others had to adapt. I wouldn't say a tremendous amount of things changed with regard to the structure and the objectives. Certainly some internal departments have had to make adjustments as far as working remotely. Marketing is typically a group that's in the office. I just mentioned construction services. They have their office space as well. Those groups had to get used to kind of having their meetings and things of that nature on online platforms and working in a remote capacity, which is new for a lot of them. Our production had the added task of ensuring that the manufacturing floor, break rooms, things of that nature were following CDC guidelines for an open establishment at that point in time. So in addition to just, making the pipe, they had to adhere to being in an occupied public space, so to speak, at that point. So a little bit of added tasks around that department. Certainly IT became even more critical. I'm sure all of us on the call have dealt with some type of bandwidth or connectivity issues over the course of this time frame, whether there wasn't enough there to support it or there needed to be some changes made or things of that nature. Way outside of my wheelhouse, but I know IT's had a tremendous amount of stress and strain on them to keep us kind of online and going. All that aside, we continue to support our existing partners to the best of our ability, pursue new business, as we just talked about, in both the commercial and residential spaces. And, I noted this much earlier, but with the new guidelines on construction sites and things of that nature, we at Uponor actually believe that our value propositions may have actually been enhanced by the pandemic and by certain guidelines that have now been, implemented on construction sites and things of that nature. Specifically around the health and safety of our partners.
If you don't mind, could you kind of elaborate a little bit further on how that enhanced the value of the propositions?
So it really dials back to what I was talking about earlier on the product itself. It is extremely lightweight. An individual can carry 300-foot coils over each shoulder. They're able to work independently. The Milwaukee tool is very lightweight, very easy to use. As I said, a lot of our guys that are currently on active projects with us have been able to send one guy, sometimes even an apprentice, into a unit by themselves with an M12 tool and have them plumb basically the entire unit without any additional assistance or contact with material, sharing of tools, anything along those lines. So that helps the weight of the product when you start working with our larger diameters, which come in 20-foot sticks, 1 inch, inch and a half. Everything's available in coils, I should say, but I would highly encourage our contractors on the line. 1 inch should really start to be your break point where you might want to switch to that straight length level. We're trying to wrestle a 1 inch coil can be a little bit challenging in a tight space. So move those 20-foot sticks, but inch all the way up to 3 inch and 20-foot sticks is relatively lightweight. In the right space with the right room, I can actually carry a 2 inch 20-foot stick on my shoulder. So think about that by comparison to a piece of iron in a hydronic application. Think of that by comparison to a piece of copper. The weight is there's injury that goes along with that. There's wear and tear on the body, which is against the health and safety of employees. Keeps your guys sharp, keeps your guys energized, working with that lighter weight material. And then the last part about it, and this goes to more of the copper guys that are out there still sweating and things of that nature. Torches. I can't tell you how many stories I've seen just in the East Coast alone of a torch, accidentally starting a fire in a wood frame multifamily development and things of that nature. You eliminate that possibility from the project entirely. Now I know press and things of that nature are out there as well, but we consider ourselves a product that is much like press from a reduction of labor standpoint. From an ease of installation standpoint, but we're much lighter in weight and we're much more cost effective from a material standpoint. So,
right. All excellent points. So we're going to take a couple more questions here from the audience. Something we haven't brushed upon too much today. How much of the country is using Uponor's fire sprinkler systems?
So this is relatively spotty, and I hate to keep going back to the education aspect, but our fire suppression system is designed for NFPA 13D, which is single family residences. So we don't extend into that multifamily application or even some of the sort of side-by-side units that don't have any type of firewalling or things of that nature associated with them. But single family homes, that is certainly an avenue we can go. Typically, our system is utilized as a combined system, so it's tied into the domestic water system. Basically, you're coming off of your main into the home, tying into some halos to support the various stories within the home, and then you're dropping off of that line to hit to your plumbing fixtures and things of that nature. That being said, it hasn't been overly widely adopted, to your point. Ironically enough, I found myself on one of these projects last Friday in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So PA has kind of been on again, off again with regard to utilizing the Uponor fire suppression. I know we have some areas up in New York that have certainly utilized it in points north, but I wouldn't say it's something that we have a tremendous amount of saturation with.
Okay. And then another question here. Do you think we will ever see red and blue PEX rings in the US?
So, it's something that we continue to, people have opinions, they continue to voice them up the food chain regarding red and blue. Believe it or not, I was one of the advocates around that, as opposed to having red and blue PEX. Certainly there's a cost mechanism there to, having rings as opposed to the pipe itself. As it stands today, I can't give you a timeline for when and if that's going to happen. So am I rooting for it? Part of me, yes, because there is seemingly a percentage of demand out there for it. The other part of me is still on the fence about red and blue as a whole. I understand the great concept of, repipe and maybe sneaking it behind the walls and not knowing, potentially crossing lines. But maybe it's the older part of me that's becoming a little bit more stubborn. But copper and CPVC, last time I checked, weren't color coded.
Right.
So if you weren't able to identify your hot and cold lines then, maybe it's time to find a new apprentice.
That's actually a very good point. CPVC is color of CPVC. Copper is going to be the color of copper. So, all right, excellent. So last question here. Now that businesses have started opening back up and construction is kind of starting to move again, we've reached that phase where non-essential construction has started to open back up. What do you expect as far as the second half of 2020 and moving forward into 2021?
Sure. We mentioned the word unprecedented earlier, so I think it's extremely difficult to predict. I think we're seeing some, great signs of life from the commercial and non-essential and essential construction business. Residential, as I mentioned, seems to be trending in the right direction from the outside, looking in, so to speak. But I think the recent phased reopening of markets have definitely increased our activity, which is a good sign. The bid boards that I monitor in my top accounts are very active and very populated. I think we have to temper our expectations a little bit of what we thought 2020 as a whole would be back in January. Embrace the new challenges, make the best of the circumstances. At Uponor, I know we're going to continue to look for new ways to better support and add value to our industry partners and their projects. And we're gonna take it as it comes, and hope for the best, right? Unprecedented also means unpredictable, so we'll just kind of have to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're in agreement there. It's been a difficult year for everyone, at least so far. However, I've been extremely busy over the course of the last couple weeks. I think that is due to sort of pent-up demand. And really, I've been just as busy the last couple weeks as I was before the epidemic started. So that's a good sign. And I think that the business has kind of opened up when we got that green light and started to meet that demand that was kind of pushed aside while we were all sitting in our homes waiting for what was to come next. So I'm hoping that leads to a strong recovery in the third and fourth quarter, and hopefully we can be back to business as usual. When we turn to 2021. But, that's all up for interpretation at that point. So we shall see. So, with that, that's really all I have tonight. I want to thank you for taking your time to join us tonight. I know it's going to be personal time, and we greatly appreciate that here. Everybody behind the scenes here as well, they've been very good with the questions tonight. So thank everybody else, who's joined us here tonight and given your personal time to visit us on this podcast. So thank you to everyone, and especially to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you all you guys, my friends over at Wales Derby, and to all of us. Just want to echo what Rob said. I know this is personal after hours time, so if you took the time to sit and listen and ask questions tonight, very much appreciated. And thank you guys for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, I had a good time, and hopefully we can do this again.
For sure.
All right, so that's it. That's all we got. And once again, thank you everyone for coming out, and everybody have a good night, and looking forward, have a great weekend. Thank you.